Well, that video's doing numbers. So, a lot more people than I expected wanted to see my opinion on the worst units in Fire Emblem. And, they sure did have reactions. Nah, but being honest, most of the interactions I got on the last video I wouldn't call negative. It was a lot of discussion about my takes, some I will admit I didn't have all the info on, and some, most notably Radiant Dawn, I let my personal biasms get in the way. Objectivity is hard, especially when my own experiences say a unit is bad, and the wikis say the unit isn't great, and the growths they have on Seren's Forest don't appear all that impressive. Plus, I may have taken too much into a vacuum, not considering join times too much because I was trying, and failing, to keep biasm out of it. So here is me trying to lay out as many defenses to people calling me dumb or unknowing, or any other thing that some people might call me. This video was researched using Seren's Forest, as well as the Fire Emblem Wikia, not the fandom one. I have also played every single game in this franchise, and beaten all of them except Thracia, though some of my information might be outdated, as I first beat Fire Emblem Awakening 13 years ago, and have then made my way through the games since, so my knowledge from playthroughs might be a little outdated. At the end of the day, these are just my opinions on what I think the best units are. I'd love to hear your ideas, as long as you're civilized, okay? Alright, let's get moving on. As I said in the last video, Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light is kind of a soup. Sometimes when you dip your spoon in, you get a Bantu, who by using promotion items, increases his defense until upwards of 99 defense and not even consuming the promotion item, making him a literal perfect tank. On the other hand, you have ballisticians, that outside of being unique and being able to use weapons effective against themselves, are pretty trash. However, when it comes to the best in my opinion, that comes down to the discussion of two separate units, Marth and Hardin. Hardin is an absolute powerhouse, his strength and defense being nearly halfway to cap, and his weapon level high enough to use any weapon available to him outside the very strong Gradivus, and he has, at maximum, 33 level ups to win the 70% lottery 5 times, on top of being able to promote, and dealing amazing damage, even if his growths aren't that amazing. Plus, he's a Cavalier, meaning he has massive movement, and that only gets better when he promotes. On the other hand, Marth can't promote, and loses in 3 growth rates, but to his advantage, Marth has better HP and strength, can visit villages to get items, units, money, and while he can't use javelins to attack at range and is stuck dealing 7 damage with the 11 sword, I am actually going to give it to Marth. While Marth doesn't have superior growths, Marth has 2 attributes that make him superior to Hardin. First, Marth has 3 swords exclusive to him and him alone. The Rapier, which has a slightly higher crit rate, but is also effective against Cavaliers, Paladins, Knights, and Generals, allowing for major damage. Second is the Mercurius, which is why he has it on him in Engage. The Mercurius is just, in general, a good sword, but it also has a 25% chance to make it so when a stat goes up, it goes up by 2 instead of 1. He'll probably be close to level cap by the time you get it, but for those last few levels, it can be nice to cap off his stats. And finally, of course, Falchion, which is so stupid and busted in this game. Not only does it never break, but Marth can use it to recover his HP to full, and while yes, it does deal bonus damage to dragons, actually no, just Medius, weirdly enough, but get this, when Marth is wielding the Falchion, any adjacent attackers that are not wielding tomes or dragon attacks are sealed. This means that bows, tomes, javelins, hand axes, dragon's breath, and Levin swords at range are the only weapons that can deal damage to Marth once he gets his hands on this bad boy. The second reason I'm giving it to him is that when they were developing this game, they wanted to force you to reset. And what better way to do that than by making it so if a unit can attack Marth, regardless of if he'll kill them or if they'll even do any damage, they will attack him. This means that as long as a unit is within range of Marth, they can do incredibly stupid suicide tactics that normally would get them killed. For instance, a flying unit in range of an archer would be a death sentence, since they deal triple damage to flyers. But since Martha's in range, they will always target him instead, keeping them safe. Combine this with the damage sealing properties of Falchion, and Martha becomes a guardian to all and a slayer of many of fools. It is close, but while Harden is generally more useful, Marth's unique attributes push him to the top for me. Oh, look! A hill! Well, time to die on it. Sonya is the best unit in Gaiden. Look, I understand that a lot of people flamed me for this take, but Sonya is, in my opinion, the best unit in this game. Many of the other units in the game have some kind of blemish on them. Alm's promotion comes pretty late into the story, around the time that his allies are starting to hit tier 3, he's just hitting tier 2, and while he can now wield 5 ranged bows, those are better suited to the archers so he can wield a sword. And while Dean is a good unit, can he attack at 5 range starting from Act 4 onwards? While this does mean Thunder basically loses out to fire in all ways except slightly higher might, now she can crit from stupidly far away, land the hyper-powerful Sagittae, and can help banish zombies using Seraphim. Now one might think, Cal, her growth rates, while okay for this game, don't stand out too much, and why wouldn't you give the Mage Ring to someone like Mei or Bowie or even Noma? Well, simple. Sonya starts with higher magic and has better or equal growths to all of them except Mei, and it's only a 10% point difference, on top of having better defenses than the others except Bowie, and having the exact same spell list as Bowie and Noma. Where she really shines is as a backup. If you were playing an Iron Man, that is, never resetting even if a unit dies, then she would be an excellent replacement should Bowie or Mei die. She's got an amazing offensive lineup like Mei, while still being relatively tanky like Bowie, and again, Dean is a good unit, but if Saber and Kamui die, you still have Jesse and Alice to fall back on for mercenaries. Meanwhile, if Bowie and Mei die, Calico will be your only source of magic damage for a while, and while she's an okay caster, until she gets Ragnarok, Sonya is going to be better than her, and Sonya's better right out the gate. Look, argue with me as much as you'd want, but in my opinion, Sonya clears as the best character in this game. Once again, Book 2 is the only book we're looking at, so what exactly do we have here? Palla. We have a Palla. Palla's base stats are absolutely absurd for a unit who joins you in Chapter 3. Considering that outside of luck, defense, and resistance, she's less than 10 points away from the maximum amount any stat can be in this game, on top of having pretty solid growths, made even more amazing with the Star Shards. You want an idea of how absurd the Star Shards can make Palla? You obtain Palla in Chapter 3, the Taurus Shard in the same chapter, Virgo in Chapter 9, and Pisces in Chapter 12, so about halfway through the game. And let's say, just now, you promoted her, so she loses all the resistance she has, but she has 19 levels to gain more. Resistance isn't exactly a common thing, because mages aren't super strong, so they made it so your defenses are low to balance things out. Palla, with all the shards in her inventory, has a resistance growth of 48%. Even assuming that she only gets it half the time, that will still leave her with 10 resistance, meaning even something no one is supposed to be able to do, that is being a resistance tank, she can do it. There is nothing Palla can't do, and because of that, that makes her the best unit in this game. Now don't get me wrong, there are a lot of good units in Genealogy Gen 1. Lex, despite being an axe unit, can become an unkillable god thanks to his absurd bulk growths, and Paragon leveling him quickly. Lewin getting the Forseti and basically becoming Aira activating Astra every other attack and hitting someone potentially 20 times in one combat. There's a lot of busted units to go around here. However, none are so great as Sigurd. Sigurd is your protagonist, and once again, the best unit in the first generation. For starters, his stats are pretty good at base. Most of his stats are actually pretty close to maximum, and he has access right out the gate to every sword in the game, and most lances, including the Brave Lance for potentially 4 attacks, Javelins for ranged attacks, the Rider's Bane to deal with other cavaliers, but to be honest, those are situational or better used on other units who don't have a niche. Sigurd's niche is the Silver Sword, obtained about halfway through the prologue. It has 14 might, so even if he's gained 0 strength so far, that's 28 damage right out the gate, 56 if he follows up thanks to his pursuit skill, which allows him to do that. And because there's a bunch of axe units in this chapter and the next, he's going to be an amazing carry and is going to rack up the kills, no doubt closing in on the 50 kills necessary to earn the critical skill, and is no doubt one of the few weapons that could hit 100 kills, which will mean that every attack will be a critical hit. He's going to be immensely useful for the entire generation, even being a great target for the rings to buff stats, especially movement. Plus, he has a horse, meaning he can tear through Genealogy's large maps easily. His only real flaw is that he's slightly held back by his allies, because he's amazing and can be made darn near perfect with specialized weapons that could help raise up okay or even bad units into great units like him. Sigurd is immensely strong, and he's incredibly fast too. I didn't even mention the amazing tearfing he gets because he doesn't even need it. And he only has it for like 2 seconds in the final chapter. Genealogy Gen 2 has a lot of units who are absolutely amazing sometimes. Sometimes, Tine has Wrath and Vantage, meaning if she's under half health, she's always attacking first and landing a powerful critical hit, and thanks to Paragon is going to grow fast. Or you have Lana right out the gate with several powerful staves, and sometimes you have Jarmurid with a terrible cleric dad giving him no skills, no weapons, and being entirely worthless. However, I decided that for the best unit in this game, they have to be strong, quick, and hard to ruin. Sed is strong, but due to not being mounted, he's not quick, it technically is possible to ruin him if his father is jamped, as he'll have a 5% magic growth. And while his skills are okay, he's not going to be amazing, just really good. Lester is quick because he's on a horse, but he's not super strong, and the players have to choose between making him good or making his sister good, and let's be honest, early game healer, mounted archer, who are people gonna pick? Larse is hard to ruin because of her class always giving her Pursuit, her mother giving her Astra, and her promotion giving her Adept, and even if her father is the cleric Claude, her growths won't be terrible, but her physical performance can be lacking and she's not on a horse. So I nominate the best unit in this game to be Ares. He's incredibly strong, his stats heavily leaning into being tanky and buff, and he's got a wonderful lineup of skills. Follow-up allows him to land 2 attacks if he's faster, Adept randomly giving him a bonus attack, and Vantage means that if he's injured from constant attacks, he's going to attack first, allowing him the chance to kill them before they can get the jump on him. He can also use javelins to attack at range, and obviously, he has the Demon Blade Mistletoe. It gives him a major boost to his skill to make critical hits easier, and very nicely, a boost to his resistance to help him tank hits from the magic enemies you'll encounter. He's also a good recipient for either the Barkin Band or the Thief Band, so repairs aren't as annoying and you can use the Mistletoe more. The only real blemish against him is that his speed can be kind of okay-ish, but that's not going to be too bad overall. Other than that, nearly perfect unit. The phrase good replacement is not a phrase often uttered. There are some that have some utility, like Dalvin having Pursuit and Vantage, Demine being on a horse with Pursuit, and Charlo with Paragon and the Berserk Staff, but overall, I'll give the best replacement to none other than Hawk. Hawk is the replacement for Sed, assuming Aranis either wasn't married or died. But a budget Sed is still an amazing unit. He's got amazing base stats with nearly capped magic and speed, and good HP. And his skill is alright, meaning he can crit, assuming he buys a weapon with critical on it. While he is footlocked, so he doesn't have the insane movement of mounted units or Kanto to land hits and retreat, what he does have is both the Pursuit and Adept skill, so he can double slower units and occasionally land bonus hits for even more damage. Additionally, he can wield most magic in the game, outside of the highest of high-level magics, and he can even wield staves, allowing him to support his mounted allies with physic, healing them from quite a distance, or offensively, by using silence or sleep to make sure dangerous enemies can't be dangerous. Plus, if you're worried about getting screwed over by RNG, assuming that Hawk is married to either Tyne or her replacement Linda, he has 2 separate events that grant him, in total, +3 resistance and +6 magic, 2 away from maximum magic. He's an amazing unit, with his only flaws being his low defense and his lack of mount, but even that can be fixed with rings. How did you turn out so amazing, while your sister turned out so terribly? Nope, not touching this one. At least until I play the game fully. If I had to say anyone, Ozian is pretty awesome. I love his wife. Binding Blade has a lot of bad units. A lot of units have terrible growths, terrible bases. Heck, the only reason the main lord isn't considered awful is because his strength and speed growths aren't the worst, his promotion is absolutely stacked, and the aforementioned Binding Blade gives him range and is super powerful. But the decision for best unit comes down to two options, Deke or Rutger. And while both of them are amazing, I'll give it to Deke. Deke is, right out the gate, fantastic. He's strong, durable, fast, and tough enough to wield even the heavy iron blade he comes with without penalty. As the game progresses, he gets even tougher and stronger with his growth rates, being a massive boon to Roy's army. One of the biggest decisions in early game binding is who you give the Chapter 7 Hero Crest to. Giving it to Rutger gives you an incredibly speedy crit machine that, with quite a bit of work, can hit upwards of 70, 80, or even 90 and 100% crit rates to deal with pesky bosses who just love evading every attack you throw at them. Personally, however, I think Deke gets a bit more out of it. For one, Deke gets more defense and speed, but more importantly, Deke gets access to axes. This means that not only can he, after some training, wield hammers to bonk strong armored units, the poleaxe to strike down mounted units, or even the legendary Armands if you really put the work into it. More importantly, this gives Deke hand axes. Inaccurate, sure, but Deke's own stats can help with that. And more importantly, range is something that Rutger really can't access. Rutger can wield the light brand, but that locks him in at 10 damage. Targets resistance, which is really bad for mages or flying units, people who are going to wield range a lot of the time, or most egregious, it can't crit. So all that crit building doesn't matter in the slightest. Deke, meanwhile, can use hand axes the second he promotes, and can crit with hand axes easily. They're both good, but for my money, or deployment slots, Deke's slightly worse offense does not counteract a much better defense than Rutger. Blazing Blade is a baby game for babies. That is to say, the game is not that difficult. Even the infamous Hector Hard mode is mostly just a step up in difficulty, with a few chapters in particular having 3 extra steps up. That means that there are a lot of good units, like Marcus, Oswin, Raven. Ha! So I'll just go with a unit I think isn't quite as standout as the others where they stand out, but is better spread out. Lowen. He's basically if you took the 3 prior units, put them in a potion, added a bit of water to water it down, gave him a higher resistance than not at all, and then drank that. He is a cavalier like Marcus, giving him swords and lances, and later axes when he promotes, meaning he has total triangle control. He's not quite as tanky as Oswin, but he's close, and he might not be as strong as Raven, but he's, again, close. And he's got the usual advantages you'd expect. Being a level 2 cavalier, he has a lot of time to grow before the Night Crest in 6 chapters, and his promotion bonuses, while nothing amazing, do help him perform his role even better. He's also given 4 chapters to grow before you get Sane and Kent, who, while are pretty good if you use them in Lin mode, if you didn't, they're not going to be anywhere near Lowen's level. He's a pretty good unit that, while his individual parts don't measure up to other units, the combination of the parts make him amazing. It's Seth. It's just Seth. As much as I'd like to provide my own unique opinion on who I think is the best, just like I did with my worst list, yeah, no, it's just Seth. Amazing base stats? Check. Great weapon availability? Check. Early join time? Check. Good growth? Check. Quite literally, there isn't anything Seth can't do. Plus, if you want to use Cavaliers, there's not a reason to use anyone but Seth outside of personal preference. Franz is the second best Cavalier, but his defenses can be a bit shaky. Kyle's growths are alright, but not stand out, and Ford is trash. Seth is so freaking good. I recorded part of a challenge run to see if you can beat the game with just him, and I'll be honest, it was boring. He was just so good, the enemies could barely hurt him. not doing much more damage than 2 or 3 points per hit, and that's even assuming the enemies were able to hit him. He's just too good for it to be anyone but him. Path of Radiance has a lot of good units. However, there is one universal truth about what units are good and what units are bad. Any unit who can wield axes are top tier. Even at E rank, an axe unit can wield the accurate iron axe, the powerful steel axe, the ranged hand axe, and that's just at the lowest rank available. I was considering putting Titania up as the best unit for this game because she has really good bases and pretty good growths for a promoted unit who joins in Chapter 1, but I would rather give it to a slightly different unit, Astrid. Astrid joins much later than Titania, in Chapter 13, and is locked to bows at first. However, she is still a cavalier, so she can canto away from danger, and more importantly, she has the Paragon skill, doubling all forms of XP she gains. This means she's going to get to promotion level quickly, and it's pretty reasonable to level her to 20 to promote automatically. Doing so can give her lances or swords, but why would you when axes are the best option? This gives her the ability to attack at close range, and be the amazing tank she's destined to be. It's nearly guaranteed, thanks to the Knight's Sword in her inventory, that she's going to cap speed, thanks to its hidden 30% buff to her already great 50% growth. Plus her defense and resistance bases and growths are good enough to be an alright tank, especially with her promotion bonuses. And while she can't wield the longbow or the double bow, the rest of the bow and axe library make her a great tank, speedy assassin, and even when she's done growing, you can just remove Paragon and attach a more offensive skill, like Gamble, Resolve, or Adept. Astrid starts off a little rocky, but she grows into being the most versatile unit possible. Radiant Dawn, the game where half your army is bad, and the other half is amazing. The king of that amazing pile is, of course, Har. Har is a Draco Knight, which you would expect to be strong and hardy, but slow. And while he is strong and hardy, amazingly, he's also pretty fast as well. Har also has the advantage of the bonus XP, or BXP system, where you can give bonus XP earned from completing objectives to force a unit to level up. While instead of having random chances to get random stat ups, you're always guaranteed 3 points. The advantage of this is that if you have a stat capped, then you're still guaranteed that 3 stat ups, while those get ignored. And since Har has a 70% growth in strength and skill, both of which are less than 6 points away from capping, chances are you're going to be able to increase his speed through BXP is very high. The biggest advantage Har has is his availability. While not amazing, it is enough. He first appears in 2 Prologue to help Elincia and Marcia protect Lean. There, he can get some XP, but his real time to shine is in 2 Endgame. In the previous chapter, give Marcia that shop's hammer, and give it to him in Endgame, and all of a sudden, Ludwig's army of incredibly tanky generals begin to crumple like tin cans, and even the boss himself can't fight back too well. Assuming Har has not gained any strength whatsoever, he's going to deal 36 of Ludwig's 45 HP. And since he's a flying unit, he can move freely around the map with complete ease. Unless you're a Thunder Mage, you're not going to be doing much to Har. He cannot be stopped, he is coming for you with a big bonk hammer in hand. Congratulations! It's a tie! And guess what? You've already seen him. Assuming you've seen my previous video, Wolf and Sedgar both are the best units because of the most unique quirk I've ever seen. See, when Blade of Light originally released, Wolf and Sedgar were horsemen, which were just mounted archers, and they kinda sucked. When Mystery of the Emblem came out, horsemen were made the promoted versions of hunters, so Wolf and Sedgar got a bit buffed, but still not super great. But in this game, they got the deluxe treatment. Not only do they have their Mystery of the Emblem enhanced stats, but in order to make them viable, the devs gave them the most yoked growths in existence. 160% HP means that in more than half of their levels, both of them will gain 2 points of HP per level, and it only gets better from there. Their best option is, as soon as possible, being generals, since that means they have 15 defense and either a 90% or 110% defense growth. Wolf, in general, will be more offensively powerful. Give him a few levels in general to bump up his defense until about level 10, where he should have about 15 defense naturally. Then he has 10 levels in Warrior with 120% strength growth to really grow his offensive power. Sedgar, meanwhile, will be the tankier unit. The aforementioned 110% defense growth make him incredibly powerful, before he too should be swapped into probably Hero for 80% strength, 105% skill, and 80% speed to make him stronger as well. The two are going to be juggernauts on the field, and no matter what you need them to do, outside of dealing magic damage, they can do it. But really, since they can do 9 other things, we can all forgive them for missing one. New Mystery of the Emblem has a deep, dark secret. It gave this series something terrible and awful that it can never truly escape from. Not again. Avatars. That's right, you yourself can be a part of the Fire Emblem experience, and to make sure you wanted to use yourself, they made your avatar busted as all get out. Callahan has perfect availability, being available from Prologue 1 all the way to the end game, and his growths are pretty good. He can be any class available to his or Callie's gender, and thanks to the choices present at the beginning of the game, he can even be customized quite a bit. Making him a fighter means he starts out with 3 defense and 25% growths, but depending on your answers, he could have as high as 5 defense or 35% growth-wise. That may not sound great, but you could also turn his 9/65% into either 11/65% or 9/80%. Callahan is basically like Wolf and Sedgar from the earlier titles, but with slightly worse growths, slightly better bases, and even more time to build him up into an ultimate killing machine, since Callahan isn't promoted yet. So instead of having 17 or 19 levels of growth, Callahan has 19, then promotion, then 19 more levels to be totally optimized. However you slice it, Callahan can do what you need him to do. Even magic! So take that list and make it so Callahan gets all the checks. Robin. Do I even need to say anything else? I mean, I will in case some non-Fire Emblem fans see this, but here's the thing. You know how I said Callahan can do anything? Robin can do everything better than him. Even if you take them at their most basic default forms. Chris has 5% better skill and luck, and Robin has 50% better magic, 10% defense, and 30% resistance. And then you get into the monster that is reclassing in this game. Depending on the gender, there are only a handful of skills Robin or Reflet cannot get. Robin cannot get access to Speed +2, Relief, Rally Speed, Lancefair, Rally Movement, Gale Force, Resistance +2, Democile, Rally Resistance, and Dual Support Plus. And then if you add on DLC, Rally Heart and Bond. Reflet, meanwhile, cannot have access to HP +5, Zeal, Rally Strength, Counter, Despoil, Gamble, Wrath, and Axefair. And with DLC, she misses out on Resistance +10 and Aggressor. So 10 are exclusive to male, 12 to female. And other than that, the entire game is open to you. Instead of having 2 reclass options that they can promote into, Robin and Reflet have access to all of the classes. So you can quite literally make Robin do anything. Swift Assassin, Undying Tank, Rallybot, Crit Machine. When you think about balance in Fire Emblem Awakening, entirely, it's all balanced around what Robin is or can do. Can a unit use magic almost as strong as Robin? Can they be as tanky as Robin? Can they double like Robin? Can they support other units like Robin? He is the meta. You cannot look at Awakening without looking at Robin. Just like last time, each route gets its own unique character I'll highlight. Birthright, obviously it's Ryoma. Joining you in Chapter 13 as an incredibly powerful samurai with free access to a 1/2 range sword that allows him to crit, activate skills, and follow up, and a bonus to his strength and speed with great stats makes him an incredibly powerful killing machine you get incredibly early in the run. On top of that, he's only 2 levels away from Astra, allowing him to strike 5 times in a row. Conquest's best unit has to be Camilla. She joins 4 chapters after the route begins, and has incredibly good base stats. Plus, she has access to axes, in my opinion one of the best weapons in Conquest, thanks to powerful axes like Baruka's axe and the Tomahawk, and she has access to magic in order to deal with units her axe might not be able to penetrate. While she doesn't have a special magic like her brother, she does have access to lightning and Mjolnir, so she can be a very versatile unit. As for Revelations, while he does join the latest of the 3 units I've listed so far, Silas is absolutely cracked in Revelations. He has nearly capped strength, skill, and defense, and he even has respectable speed and resistance. And because this is a modern FE game, reclassing and grid growths help him to get even more out of his already goated stats. The best character in Echoes is a heated argument, but they're all wrong. Because the best character in Echoes is not even a character, it's a weapon, and that weapon is the Killer Bow. The Killer Bow is a mildly rare bow, requiring forging a silver bow to get, and it has pretty good stats. For 340 silver, hi everyone, it's me, the funny editor man, who's currently editing this video, and you know, as I was editing this and I heard what I was saying back, like I was like, that's a really specific number, 340 silver. Like where did I get that number? So I double checked with the wiki, and I have no idea where I got this number, because if you check the wiki, you'll see that you can forge the Killer Bow, but it costs like just to get the final level, you need 400 silver and 2 gold, which is like that is a high price investment. I have no idea where I got 340 silver, because it's not even what you need to forge the silver bow, because the silver bow is just 100 silver. 100 silver and bada bing bada. I think it might have been like saying that you have to forge the silver bow to max to get the brave bow, but I that's not the case. I have no idea what's going on with that. Ignore that point. It is expensive to forge up to max, but it is well worth it, as you will see in a moment. You get a 9 might, 2 weight bow with 90% accuracy and 1 to 3 range, on top of Archer's already existent bow range +1 or +2 skill. What really makes this bow amazing is its combat art, Hunter's Volley. It mildly buffs your crit and might, but more importantly, it's one of the few combat arts that allow you to strike twice without worrying about getting counterattack. Suddenly, not only does any archer you have, either the guaranteed archers of Python and Leon, or the villagers Gray, Tobin, Cliff, or Atlas, have the ability to attack most enemies without fear of counterattack, but even if you're facing a unit who can counterattack, like another archer, you can just hit twice with a decent chance of killing them before they can even touch you. And sure, it costs 8 HP to use it, but by the time you're probably getting your hands on it, there's probably a cleric who heals adjacent allies for 5 HP a turn, so it really only costs 3 HP. An insane bow that, while mildly rare, becomes infinitely less rare when you get access to the DLC. Since not only do you get a bunch of weapons for a chance to get either a silver bow, killer bow, or a steel bow to turn into a silver bow, but you get a bunch of other garbage to sell for money to forge the item. It's insanely good, and considering that even without DLC, you're guaranteed 5 whole bows that can be turned into killer bows, you're gonna be swimming in Hunter's Volley. Three Houses has a lot of good characters who can be made great with some extra work, but really, there's only one character who can be categorically labeled as not only amazing, but entirely pay to win: Yuri. Yuri can join you in Chapter 2 once you complete the DLC, and from there, he makes the entire game so much easier. Yuri has a massive speed advantage over every other unit in this game, since he has a base of 10 and a 65% speed growth, and that's only going to get better as he gets access to higher and higher ranked classes. On top of its 11 base, 40% growth in strength, He's going to be a fast damage dealer with a 20% chance to cancel an enemy's counterattack, so even if the enemy can be a threat, there's just a 1/5 chance they aren't. He's also not too shabby defensively, having alright defensive resistance bases, with pretty acceptable growths that, again, only get better as he gets access to new classes. His personal skill is probably one of the better ones in the game. His spell list is also really good, having access to the entire Wind series, which helps his crit rate even more, on top of having access to Silence, one of only 2 or 3 units who can even learn it depending on route. It sucks that he is just straight up better than most units, since again, you need to buy the DLC to use him, but hey, if you do, he's pretty strong. Now look, there has been a constant trend in the units I've labeled as best. They're killing machines. However, just as important as killing people is, supporting your allies is also important. And that's why my nomination for Engage is the most supportive unit in the entire series so far, Hortensia. Now right off the bat, Hortensia doesn't seem like much. Her magic isn't great, and while she's quick, lucky, and resistant, her B-rank tomes prevent her from using the most powerful spells. But here's the thing. Instantly promote her, and put in a few levels with her, and she's going to carry your team support-wise. For starters, promotion gives her more magic, speed, and luck, which is nice, but then you realize the potential in her personal skill, big personality. This means that all staffs have +1 range, which you may just think applies to Physic or Obstruct or Freeze, but then you realize this applies to all staves. This means she can use the powerful Recover staff to most likely fully heal an ally without getting in range of 2 range archers or wind mages. Rescue grants an even longer range to protect people, meaning you can save allies from slightly farther away. And then, 5 chapters later, you get Micaiah, and all of a sudden, she gets even stronger. Now, not only does she have the ability to use warp from even farther away, but now, she can warp 5 whole units with a single use of her staff. And if that's not enough for you, her promoted class of Sleipnir Knight gives her the skill World Tree at level 5, giving her a dex % chance to not consume a staff use, which means at max, even assuming you're not giving her bonus dexterity through skills, this gives you a 36% chance of not consuming a staff use. Hortensia is the absolute queen of caring for your teammates, and if you want to survive through the harder difficulties of Engage, or even just the harder challenges of the game, Hortensia is a must-have unit who cannot be passed up on. Okay, we're doing something dumb. We're gonna have the best and worst units from the 2 videos, with their base stats, fight in the arena. This means that combat won't end until one of them is dead. Here we go. Marth's 100 hit chance means he's always going to be dealing 5 damage to Daros. That is, unless he crits, which Daros can't crit on him. His first attack deals 5 damage, and Daros hits back, leaving them at 10 and 16 respectively. Marth hits again, and Daros misses, so Daros is still in the lead, but not for long if that continues. Marth lands another hit on Daros, but Daros manages to counter. 2 versus 6! Marth needs to either crit or dodge one more attack. He lands another hit, but so does Daros, leaving the pirate standing and surviving with 1 HP. This fight's going to be a rough one for Sonya. Dean attacks first, because he has a higher attack speed and is guaranteed to hit. He rolls a critical hit, dealing 44 damage and killing her right away, giving Dean a perfect victory. Didn't even give her the chance to fight back. This will be a one-stroke duel, as both characters have the same speed stat due to weapon weight. Since they have the same speed stat, I'll give the first strike to the challenger, Samuel. He lands a hit, dealing 7 damage, but she retaliates and deals a whopping 17 damage, nearly taking him out in 1 strike. He strikes back, but so does Pala, sending the faux cool guy to the grave, and giving the good units their first point. For the purposes of this battle, and because the internet searches were inconclusive, authority stars will not be factored into this battle. Sigurd has the advantage because not only does he strike first, but he can land a follow-up attack on poor Nisha. Landing a solid hit on the knight for 16 damage, nearly half his health, Nisha retaliates, but since he doesn't crit, he only deals 12 damage. And Sigurd follows up and lands another painful blow in the knight before finishing Nisha off for good. Truly he is a peerless knight. Well, folks, this is just plain mean. He's not even going easy on her since he starts with the iron blade equipped instead of the iron sword. At least he finishes her off in one blow so she can't feel the pain of struggling. Kinda funny to see that Lyn, known for her speed, can't double. But we'll see if that even matters. Lyn lands the first hit, dealing 2 damage, and Lowen returns the favor 5-fold, dealing 10 damage. Lyn's on her last legs, so she puts all her energy into her blade, and doesn't crit because RNG wasn't in her favor. Luck is in Lowen's favor, however, cause he lands the next hit, and ends Lyn's run. God, this is also mean. What a terrible idea. I didn't even bother calculating most of the stats because at base, E1 cannot damage Seth. So even if he lucks out and crits, he still deals 0 damage. Seth wins. This is another wash because again, Seth cannot hurt Astrid. Even if I went off entirely basic stuff, just iron weapons and nothing more, he could have a chance. But since I'm going off their starting inventory as well, Astrid's Night Ward keeps her safe. Astrid will eventually kill him, it's just inevitable. Once again, mildly cruel, but I'm okay with this because I don't like Micaiah. Horror strikes first and misses, giving Micaiah the chance to fight back and deals a whopping 3 whole damage. Jesus. Horror follows up and kills her in 1 strike. So while he wins, he does not join the illustrious club of perfect winners. I think Wolf is just a little bit better, so he's the one thrown in the arena. Navarre strikes first but doesn't crit, dealing 7 damage to Wolf, and Wolf strikes back with a critical hit, dealing 15 damage to Navarre. He's just barely clinging to life, so he returns fire with a crit of his own. He finishes off Wolf, but really, if he hadn't, I think Wolf would have had this in the bag. For reference, we're going off basic canon Chris, which means mercenary male, who also, funnily enough, can double poor Ubello. He smacks Ubello for 8 damage, and Ubello misses. And then Chris slams his sword into Ubello 2 more times and ends the board kid. Oh god, that was hard to watch. Again, going off default Robin stats. This also means he's wielding a sword at first, so let's see who wins. Rickon, surprising everyone, lands a 3% crit, dealing 38 damage to Robin and killing him in 1 shot. Oh, I guess Rickon is the guy every fanfic writer ships everyone with, so, good for him? This fight is irrelevant, since Izana does not join with any weapons. Ryoma clears. This fight is also irrelevant because Odin cannot deal damage to Camilla. This one almost was a wash, but since Nyx deals 1 whole damage to Silas, I had to calculate it. Normally Silas would start combat, but since javelins give the opponent 5 effective speed, she goes first, but she still can't double. Her first attack hits and deals 1 damage, and then Silence obliterates her in a single strike. Absolutely sad. This ought to be interesting, folks. Jesse starts off with a solid strike, dealing 8 damage to the archer, but he returns fire with 13 damage. Jesse follows up and strikes twice, killing the archer. But still, the guy had a solid chance to finish Jesse off, and that's kind of disappointing. Raphael may have a brave effect, but remember, Yuri could cancel Raph's next attack. Raph strikes twice and deals 12 damage before Yuri follows up, dealing 12 damage himself. Raphael brings Yuri to the verge of death, but he's still kicking. Yuri attacks and activates his crest, canceling Raph's next attack and giving him a free blow. With that, he takes Raph down, barely eking out a victory. This fight is also null and void because Hortensia spawns with just a break staff, but since this isn't Radiant Dawn, she can't use them for combat. So with a score of 6 versus 11, the good units beat the bad units, who are banished to the Shadow Realm forever. Let me know if I picked the right units this time,
and I'll see you nerds in the next video!